In wellness, we believe confidence isn't just how you look, it's how you feel. From subtle, natural aesthetics to personalized wellness care, everything we do is intentional. This is beauty with purpose. At Vibe Men's Health, we take that same approach. We focus on what matters most: strength, energy, and performance. Built on real data, real medicine, and real results, we're here to help you look better, feel stronger, and live fully. Come vibe with us today.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 9.
Welcome to Mississippi Live Weather at 9. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Waupon. I'm waiting on something here behind the scenes to get figured out. I'm going to make sure to get our push notification out there for all of our folks there that watch us on the various platforms. One of my computers here is running a little slow on that, so I'm going to hit refresh. We'll get that back up here. Update tiles. So you guys got the good title on all the social medias. Update all on that. And then now we're going to do the little push notifications. I apologize. It's usually a little house cleaning thing, and I thought I had it ready, and I did not. Okay, now let's make this watchable. Thank you so much for joining us at 9. We've been digging into some of the data behind the scenes and taking every possible moment to do that. So let's kind of talk through what could be a pretty active 24-hour period here for us. Strong tornadoes possible on multiple occasions over the next 24 hours. First chance tonight, next chance as we look toward tomorrow. We'll dig into that with triple threat here in a couple of moments. Strong wind gusts, large hail possible, localized flooding. We're kind of between model runs as data continues to come in. So you're going to see kind of some partial updates here as we look through our threats coming up for the next few minutes here. But kind of our headlines, again, 2 rounds of storms ahead. The overnight chance to pre-dawn, really kind of a peak time frame of 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. Is concerning because it's while a lot of us would sleep. I'm not encouraging you to stay up all night with us. I am saying you need to make sure, whether it's Weather Call, Code Red, the apps, that you have multiple ways to find out if you're in danger, because overnight storms are the most likely to be killer storms. And then our second round is going to be tomorrow afternoon into evening. The positioning on that, looking at the latest data coming in right now, it's interesting what's happening on that. We're going to have to walk through. I'm going to have to think through this as we go because the new data comes in pretty much right around now. That's the reason, by the way, we didn't come out the gate with a 9 o'clock broadcast, is on these kind of nights, the new data is coming in at 9. I wanted to have kind of a finished product, but we're going to have to do a work product with this tonight. So we'll talk about that here throughout the next little bit. Tomorrow, we're going to have some rain and some storm chances overnight and into early tomorrow morning, maybe a little bit of a lull around mid-morning to midday, and then storms continue to kind of break out in greater coverage as we head toward the afternoon. So overnight storms could potentially be strong to severe. There's nothing out there now. Just clear air returns on a Mama Justice Doppler radar here across the northern part of the state of Mississippi. Got to look up there into Arkansas. And these storms aren't particularly impressive out there as well. We'll go kind of our composite radar here. It's closer to the center of our low pressure out there. I don't have any severe thunderstorms. And as you'll note here, kind of look at this, I really haven't had any reports out of this as well. That's sign number 1 that things are hopefully looking a little bit better for us, because while there is in that blue area there a tornado watch out in the Arkansas, we've had no tornado warnings to this point, and hopefully a best case scenario is that this models are more aggressive than the reality of the situation. So that's where the data is coming in right now. We're going to have to process it on the go during this broadcast. You can see instantly, as soon as we kick it in there, storms between now and 10 look a lot heavier in here than they looked on Mama Justice Doppler a second ago, right? Let's see if they'll be on the same view. We'll go back to that for a moment. See how this is the reality of right now, and then this is what the model looks like, what we should have. We should be increasing in coverage. So by the end of this broadcast, we'll be able to check back in on Mama Justice Doppler and see how many of these storms are coming to fruition. But again, if it's a greater quantity on the model than reality, that means there's a possibility that the model's too strong, which is the best case scenario for us. Storms will, again, start moving into the western and northern part of the state somewhere between 1 and 3 o'clock in the morning. This northern tier of counties, if you watch just kind of a line here north of Clarksdale, north of Oxford, north of Tupelo, that's where, again, we have the most red. Those thunderstorms are strongest, though this does have a couple of those just there far enough south to maybe have some rotation down there closer to Oxford or New Albany or a Boonville by tomorrow morning, potentially for tomorrow morning's commute, or as you're heading out to work and school to begin the day. We will probably still have some heavier thunderstorms along that front. We show still 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And one thing that is different on our latest version of the HRRR model is we have a greater quantity of storms continuing through the day behind this. That adds to what we call a cold pool, the rain-cooled air from this. And that would have more of a tendency to try to shove some of this threat farther south, which if you're in Tupelo or Bruce or Grenada, for your situation, could be the best case scenario on how this plays out. Because I can still even see, and I'll try to highlight it here for a moment with blue, this is where it has our rain-cooled air, what we call the outflow boundary, reinforced by the front, but also then the rain-cooled air. And so all of this to say, in this scenario here, that starts eliminating more folks from that severe weather threat. So we'll track that again in more detail here in a couple of moments. But that's, again, some improving signs there. For others, it's not improving signs. So it just kind of depends on which category you fit into here. Tomorrow, we're going to obviously have overnight storms that could be strong to severe leading into this. Probably our least likely time to have severe weather between 9 a.m. and we'll say noontime. Storms ratcheting back up into the afternoon, especially into the evening tomorrow, as we are pretty close to the center of a severe weather threat that includes multiple chances for tornadoes in the afternoon and evening for tomorrow. Coming up here in 60 seconds, again, we're going to break down as much of this as we can. As we mentioned off the top of the broadcast, this is the time period when our model data is coming in. So you're going to see this at the exact same time I'm seeing it because it comes in right now. That's the reason we didn't launch Mississippi Live Weather with a 9 o'clock broadcast. I wanted to have complete information by 10, but we're going to hack through the partial information now in 60 seconds as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Room to Room's birthday party is going on now. Come celebrate with us. Thousands of dollars in free gifts, cash, spa treatments, shopping sprees, and even a chance to win your entire purchase free. It's a celebration you don't want to miss. And there's no party like a Room to Room party.
We can see the lowering. We're going to have a good shot at that as it approaches the Rienzi area. Tornado warning now issued. We'll do a push alert behind the scenes for folks here up here in Alcorn County. Rotation on this thunderstorm increasing to the point back into Tippah County as well, where the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for your locations.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
Well, again, welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather at 9. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lovhawn. Crenshaw, one of those locations where we have a potential for strong to severe thunderstorms tonight. As we look out there in northwest Mississippi, looking kind of hazy with some of those clouds, but some cloud cover out there. No real meaningful precipitation this hour. 72 the temperature. That dew point number coming up. It's not as significant as it will be for tomorrow. Let's assume I can actually point behind me there, right there, where that is. But as that moisture increases, our chances for severe weather and thunderstorms will as well. We will look and try to talk through, again, some of your questions related to this that come up here toward the end of this broadcast as we kind of plan ahead. But Alcorn County, one of those other locations up in the Corinth area, we're south of that there, close to Rienzi. Moisture somewhat more limited, but still looking out on what is clear now, but probably like to be more stormy as we head toward early tomorrow morning. Which is why Mama Justice Doppler is cleared now. We start off our 9 and 10 o'clock broadcast with the 7-day forecast here for a moment to give you kind of an overview before we really kind of drill in on this. And as you can see here, our coverage of storms tomorrow between the morning chance, midday and afternoon thunderstorms, about 70%. We're mostly going to see thunderstorms, in some cases 2 or 3 inches of rainfall, easily possible, and 5 or 6 isn't off of the table. Afternoon chance is greatest early Thursday when we'll see that chance there. We're dry Friday, dry Saturday, and looking towards Sunday. Some spotty showers there, a possibility into Monday as well. Still watching the moisture, see if that comes a little higher to see how many thunderstorms mix in with that. But this is our headline tonight. 2 chances for severe weather on your Wednesday. Strong tornadoes possible. Some strong wind gusts a possibility. And if we get the rotation to get strong enough, large hail in excess of 1.5 inches is a possibility, again, to go alongside that flooding potential. So our severe risk, and this says Tuesday, this is tonight, overnight into pre-dawn tomorrow morning. Nothing's changed on this. Same locations, northern half of the area where it's possible, in the yellow zone here and just east of that, where I would say it's most likely to see some storms and potentially tornadoes. That's obviously the risk we're most concerned with there. We look at the strong tornado risk. Again, New Albany, Senatobia, Tunica, Holly Springs, Ripley, all involved in that, as thunderstorms have been pretty consistent, or on our projections, pretty consistent on developing thunderstorms and keeping them up in this zone. Tomorrow, strong tornado risk, pretty much as the rest of us. Afternoon and evening peak potential. And in each case, we're talking about potential for tornadoes EF2 or stronger. That's where we start causing damage to well-built structures. And the greatest odds for those tornadoes going to be in this orange zone there. Greatest number of reports in some of the spots that we're talking about with that. And that's obviously where our peak severe weather risk is one that extends throughout the entire state. So let's now look through the very latest here on Mama Justice Doppler. As we mentioned, we're going back here looking northwest and just rather underwhelmed by what we're seeing with storms up here into Arkansas. The blue box is a tornado watch. We want to be underwhelmed. Underwhelmed is a good sign. But storms will progress eastward. Let's now walk through what is possible and the timing here. We show a rotating storm on our futurecast, which again, as we mentioned a moment ago, is a little more aggressive right now than the reality of the situation is. So as storms continue there through, say, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, South Haven, we're getting closer to some of those for you, and a greater likelihood to have some of these up there, probably right at the Tennessee state line. If you kind of look straight down on that, that has some rotation on that one there near Piperton. So it's going to be right on the Tennessee state line, kind of looking at that. We're going to have some storm chasers out there. I know our North Mississippi storm chasers will be watching this closely. Another storm chaser, Ashton Lenley, just texting me that he's going to be out and watching this as well. So we're going to have this covered from a number of different angles tonight up here in the northwest portion of the state for you. These don't look quite as impressive as what we had 5 and 6 o'clock on our earlier model runs. This one coming in this evening. Still, I think what it does is it keeps these heavier later, like that one near Senatobia, 2:30 in the morning. That has a little rotation on it, some damaging winds. So there's no guarantees this is going to be all producing tornadoes. In fact, I think most will not. But one or two could, and overnight tornadoes are the most dangerous. But our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, and I will be watching things. Maggie, typically you would see her 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. You'll probably be seeing her 1:30, 2:30 a.m., somewhere in that time frame. Obviously, when the warnings come out, when severe weather becomes possible, we'll be uncovering it. Maggie will be the one initially. If we end up in a situation where we think we've got a significant tornado, she'll be calling me. The reason you're not going to necessarily have me all night long is I got to stay sharp again for tomorrow. So a combination of us, we're going to try to work it in. Gabe's on paternity leave, got a beautiful baby boy, but that's left us down a person. We'll be able to hack our way through it pretty well. But I just, want to be forthcoming and honest about kind of where things kind of stand with that. So Maggie and I will be kind of tag teaming this overnight. You'll notice here 3:30 in the morning, that one near Stardust and Batesville, a little bit stronger, slightly more rotation as it moves there toward Oxford. We don't have a lot of these getting the deepest, darkest reds. So I think we're going to have rotation that hopefully doesn't produce tornadoes, but there will be spots where it's a possibility we could, and that's where that strong tornado threat could potentially come in. Storms remain pretty heavy up there, as you can see. They're closer to Pontotoc, even the north part of Tupelo there, back toward around Fulton by 6 o'clock in the morning. That is slightly farther south. That has been the trend, a little bit farther south each of the last 2 or 3 runs on our HRRR model, our futurecast. So school bus forecast for tomorrow morning, yes, we're going to have some showers and thunderstorms around to begin your day. The expectation is that most should be below severe limits, but we still can't completely rule out one being strong. I think by the time the buses are dropping off in the afternoon, hopefully we've got them in before the storms start to strengthen. But I think as we go past that 5, 6, 7 o'clock time period, that's when things start to really kind of ratchet up for tomorrow. So here's a look at Futurecast, and I changed models on you. The reason I've changed models is my longer range HRRR isn't out. And this is what we've talked about a couple times in this broadcast. We're kind of using data that's half in, half not. This is a different version of strike model versus what we showed you at 5 and 6 o'clock. I think first thing I note on this is it does have some of that rain cooled air. Looks like we might have that outflow as far south as maybe Grenada and Aberdeen on this. We continue to regenerate some thunderstorms out here toward the Delta 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. But looking at this again, those would be elevated. Those would be non-severe. I think it's been a strong enough signal on our projections that I think that's where we could also have some additional hail threat, not as well represented in some of the graphics that we have shown there. So I think some hail possible with a few of these if they get going, but notice most of them, when you kind of look at the reds and oranges, they don't get too terribly heavy. What is evident here, I think, on this particular moment, let's watch this here, from Greenwood there, Grenada back up toward Boonville. Let's see if that shows up here for a little bit. They might have our boundary right there, the edge of that rain cool there, starting to work northward. In fact, yeah, look at the change in the arrows. You can see that there. So this is going to be one of the spots where storms fire in the afternoon, close to that. The majority of these that we're looking at here, I think will be primarily hail producers. There's going to be some rotation. And to be clear, we're going to be tracking them. And it's not impossible that they could produce a tornado. That's why you have that more limited threat. But I would say our peak tornado threat is going to be the locations a little farther south than that. So if we had the front on here, and I left our cold front off so we can make sure to see all of the data with the storms, these are the ones that we're going to watch for that strong tornado threat a little more closely. We show Greenwood, Grenada, back toward Bruce. Again, those are struggling to get going, whereas the storms behind the front with more of a hail threat are working out better. So this is about as positive a scenario as I could expect to see on Futurecast. And hopefully it's one that, as we continue to look at this data together, continues. Storms do continue to fire and lift in, and unfortunately, these all kind of have some rotation sort of look on it. That one near Philadelphia, one of the things I find interesting about that, and the one there closer to Meridian, I want to see the movement on these. These were moving, that one in particular was moving pretty north. And I see it changes more northeast, weakens a little bit by that point. So we still have spotty rotating thunderstorms down here south of US 82 in particular, showing up there 7:30, 8 o'clock. The storms farther north, again, could have hail. We'll probably still have some rotation. There's still a scenario where tornadoes could occur with those. But I'm most concerned with this batch that we have down here emerging from northern Louisiana. And again, Kosciuszko back toward Macon. We talked about this at 5 and 6 o'clock. We're looking to see if the same spots have the rotation again. That's when we get concerned, when the model does the same thing over and over. And look what it's doing here. Around at 8:30, we have some of those storms close to Kosciuszko, Macon, south of Eupora here. This is the same spot we were looking at 5 and 6 o'clock there on our strike model and our HRRR, showing some of those rotating thunderstorms there. This one near Chula, that one there close to Louisville. Both look like they could be storms that produce strong tornadoes potentially. They have the kind of rotation. They have the sort of look. We'll analyze them with triple threat in a moment. But kind of looking at this here, we still have a zone near Monroe, Louisiana, back here at Hollandale, Kosciuszko, back toward Macon and Tuscaloosa. We continue to have rotating thunderstorms 10 p.m. Okay, let's look back behind this for a moment. Now, I'm not going to lie. These storms look like they have some rotation too, but look at the arrows for a second. See how the arrows are all kind of from the east or sort of from the south or from the north there? That tells me that these are behind. They're in the cooler air. They're cut off from the main fuel. And that's why I'm not talking as much. I know we have the majority of our viewers that watch us are really in this area here, and I'm not talking a lot about you. That's why I'm addressing it now. The peak severe weather threat on this version of the strike model is a little farther south. That's a good thing because strike was slightly farther north of this than the last time we showed it. Okay, why does that matter? Well, HRRR was farther south. So we're like, which of these two is it going to be? Now we're starting to see a little shift southward for that daytime to tomorrow evening round. I think tonight's round, it looks like the exact same spots. But tomorrow, this is an encouraging sign for the northern half of the Mississippi Live Weather viewing area here. But unfortunately, 10, 11, still these storms, plenty of rotation showing up on these. And one thing that I'm going to, even with what little HRRR data we're going to have here in a minute, we'll have to look at, I have virtually no storms south. I think that is wrong. I think we will probably have some storms farther south from this here, and that will then impact the severity of the storms. So there are still some things to pray and hope for, that maybe the fuel gets a little more cut off and that things get a little displaced from where the peak upper level winds are. But this still definitely through even 11 o'clock shows some rotating storms. By midnight, yes, we have some, and that one down there south of Columbus, close to Macon, that's a pretty rough-looking one as well. But the fact we've had hours of storms really in the same zone here, that's where I'm talking 5, 6 inches of rainfall, not outside the realm of possibility. We'll look at that in more detail coming up a little bit later on. We'll probably get into that one at 10 o'clock when we'll address that. But 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, still some rain, still some storms, though that peak threat is south. Severe weather threat should be all gone by then. So again, revisiting here the impacts. Strong tornadoes possible with our threat overnight. The change between 5 and 6 and now, they don't look quite as strong, but we're going to use triple threat in a moment to again evaluate that using the very latest on our exclusive strike model. Some strong wind gusts are a possibility. Large hail in excess of 1.5 inches. I didn't concentrate on that, but those storms, Kosciuszko, Louisville, Macon, Philadelphia, maybe Winona, possibly Starkville, big hail out of those storms. 7-day forecast here has us, again, 70% on that rain coverage for your Wednesday. Pre-dawn, we're going to have some during the day, less likely to be severe. Then late afternoon, peaking in coverage into the evening. 70% on the rain coverage there. Early Thursday morning, but dry after that. Dry Friday, dry Saturday, and looking relatively drier as we head into this upcoming weekend until Sunday, where spotty rain chances, and then we're back there a little bit cooler beyond that by the first of next week. But not a lot of very significant severe weather threats out there outside of tonight and tomorrow's chance, looking over the course of the 7-day forecast. I'll pop up the chat here for a moment as I continue to kind of evaluate things. We're going to look at our triple threat here in a moment. Appreciate y'all watching there in Grenada and Tupelo and Pontotoc as we assess things. Let's look at triple threat. Again, this is a Mississippi Live exclusive and the latest version of this coming in pretty much as we speak, as we mentioned. So let's kind of look here at what it's capable of, what it is doing. Before we go too far there, I want to check again what radar shows with those storms on Mama Justice Doppler out there into Arkansas. Now, I'm not looking at the closest radar, the right radar site on this, so give me a second to kind of pop up a little more. Those don't look overly strong or severe, so far things are working out in a more limited capacity. Fingers crossed, because if we come back here and check out our triple threat, looking at the exact same spots there, it shows that over the course of the next hour that we should have on the model had, the last couple of hours here, should have had some rotation on that. So that's a good sign there that has underwhelmed a little bit. The storms, whatever the storms are, has those getting closer to, again, Oakland, up there toward Piperton, Middleton, Tennessee, as we look here toward about 1:30 in the morning. And we'll address, again, some of the questions here in a moment after we talk through, again, the overnight threat that we have over here as well. So as you can see here, that accumulated threat, hail, damaging winds, I go 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning there. I'll go back a little bit. Let's check that. Yeah, 5:30 in the morning on this latest version of Strike. Less of the high-end sort of rotation tracks on this. So a good sign as far as the overnight round is concerned. We're going to look at a different version of this using the short-range HRRR here in just a moment. Takeaway on this, though, is pretty clear. There is still a tornado threat overnight. It is primarily going to be locked into locations north of Batesville, north of Oxford, north of New Albany, Saltillo. These zones here back out toward Marianna, West Helena, Arkansas, Senatobia, again, as I mentioned a moment ago there. These locations are the spots hail and damaging winds and tornado the most likely. If I get rid of the hail data for a moment and I get rid of the rotation data, the reason is because there are spots out there, especially in the Delta, where we could have significant damaging winds just out of the thunderstorm winds as well. And so I point that out to say that we want to be thinking ahead on where we could shelter, or if we need to shelter for that. And so we do have a shelter list. Can't guarantee all of these are open, but whether it's the rotation or the damaging tornado threat, there are storm shelter lists. Oops, and I have that set to. I'll have to add that to my list. I apologize there. Anyways, storm shelter list on our website. You might need it tomorrow. You might need it tonight. Can't guarantee these are all open. You want to, of course, call down there to the different cities. In some cases, they will be. In other cases, they won't. But we need to be thinking ahead, whether it's a storm shelter, whether it is, just going to a friend's house that maybe is a little bit safer. Overnight tornadoes are the most likely to cause injury and death. And so please plan and think accordingly. Before we go too much further on triple threat, I'm going to find our short range. There we go. Our short range HRRR. This one would be updated. It's the one that gets us through tomorrow afternoon that is not. So let's look at this. We'll go 18 hours. And so this kind of shows the latest on some of those rotation tracks. If we bring it back to present time, I think we can get all the way back to present time. That starts me at 10. So let's go back here to start it right now. So again, it's also overdoing the intensity on some of these storms out west. No big shock there at all. Again, it's on the development side. Sometimes it overdoes the first batch. Midnight here, it's still back to the north and west. As we look towards, say, 1 o'clock in the morning or so, we have those storms approaching South Haven, Holly Springs by around 2 a.m. You can see some of these coming out of Arkansas there with some rotation tracks. Thing you'll notice is that the rotation tracks should conceivably get weaker as these storms progress through North Mississippi. The farther east they go, those rotation tracks should conceivably get a little bit weaker. And that's because we have less fuel farther east. I still show some rotation tracks out there. And some of these do stay consistent, like some of these back here closer to Oxford. These are not quite as strong as some that we had depicted there a little earlier on this evening. This high resolution version sometimes does that. I'm really interested in the fact that it has such a powerful track out here north of Clarksdale. So let's go ahead. Hold on. Give me a moment. I'm going to move one of my monitors here to where it's right in front of me, so I'm not like staring so far off camera here for a moment. And let's add in the fuel, what we call CAPE. The reason I want to add that in is because I want to see if this one storm here, this kind of big bad storm that has those big strong rotation tracks right there, you see those? I want to see where that is versus where it is depicting the fuel should be for this. And so shows that is a little out of phase, meaning that could be back in the cold air, meaning that even though this shows at 5 a.m. pretty strong rotation tracks, those could end up being hail producers, maybe some significant hail producers as that stays again ahead of any of the fuel. The fuel there kind of represented by all the orange shows where storms would actually have enough to produce significant severe weather. I'll put that on bottom there as well. Got a lot of the same colors. Let me see if I could change the color. I prefer this color, but I might change the color just because they're all kind of that orangey sort of color. Let's see here. I might not have another that I can do with on that, unfortunately. I think I might be stuck on that one for now. That's fine. We'll leave it there. So, but what I do notice is that storm gets closer to the boundary and may still be surface-based. I'm much more interested with these storms that are still kind of in this orange zone, using that fuel. And those are the ones as they move from Oxford to New Albany. And this shows as late as maybe 5 to 6 a.m. for some of those spots there, that those could have some rotation with them, but maybe not a ton. So that is an interesting change on that. That fuel remains close. Storms continue to fire with it. But the majority of storms, even through early tomorrow afternoon, they continue to be kind of displaced back behind this. Now, I do have a couple of hours here where I have some fuel. It is interesting that this, say, 10, 11 o'clock already has some of these thunderstorms trying to develop and get a little stronger close to that boundary. Again, not impossible. They do have some rotation tracks with those in the early afternoon. But one thing you'll notice, if that's the case, that is then a scenario where this boundary has been pushed a little bit farther south. So that data coming in as we speak, I need to think through how I feel about that and the reality of that happening. But you'll see that all these storms that develop after that, we do expect a lot more storms after that developing. They're back here, removed from the fuel. That could be somewhat of a limiting factor as far as that is concerned. I'm going to bring our chat back up here for folks, again, asking questions behind the scenes. Let's start off with the simple. What time tonight? The time tonight that we are watching is for locations here in northwest Mississippi. And I'm probably better off doing this graphic here. So let's talk some timing here for a moment. So back here, kind of northwest Mississippi, I would say we're looking at this 12 to 1A, right? 12 to 1A. It's hard to read it through those city names, but I think you can kind of see what we have there. Farther east, I would say at the earliest here, this is probably 2 to 230-ish. I'm not going to put 2.5. That'd be confusing. Let's go east of that then. I would say somewhere in the 3 to 4. And this is on the early end. I think we'll have multiple batches of storms move through. And so possibility to see these tornado warnings overnight. All of these are AM. So this is in the morning that we're looking at these. So somewhere in that 12 to 1 a.m. up here in the northwest portion of the state, 2 a.m. once we get closer to Oxford, 3 a.m. closer to, say, New Albany, Tupelo, 4 a.m. or so. And storms could potentially move faster than that. But I think you have kind of wave and wave down below that, farther south from that as well. So that's our overnight chance. And the overnight chance is the one that obviously always gives me the heebie-jeebies. That's why we talk about weather call. And, when I say heebie-jeebies, it's most likely scenario for, I don't know why, for one reason or another, that is not clearing that off now. I changed one thing between broadcasts, and that apparently was the wrong choice. So I'll have to go back and clean that up. But, you are most likely to die from a tornado overnight when you're asleep and don't realize something's coming toward you. So make sure you have a way to find out if you're in danger. Weather call is that way. That's just the number one thing I recommend for you and your family to keep you safe and keep you ahead of the storm. Any issues that we have related to that there. I'll also say that you want to make sure to kind of build your armor and be thinking about multiple ways in which you can find out if you're in danger. One of those ways should be weather call. One of those ways should be the Mississippi Live Weather app, Code Red, NWS Weather Radio, all those different things, ways in which you can find out if you're in danger. But the overnight threat tonight obviously is concerning. Myself and our Maggie McCauley will be watching things in shifts overnight. If we get to a situation where we have a significant, tornado situation, it will be both of us. I'm just trying to, with Gabe out, full disclosure, we're a little short-staffed for tonight. But that happens from time to time, and we're ready either way. That's why we built the home studio, was for nights like this. So we'll be watching things. We'll have updates. Keep it here for the latest to make sure, again, you have multiple ways to find out that you need to get to shelter. And then again, know where your safe place is, where you're at. A lot of times you're trying to identify this. We're looking at the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a small windowless room where we can wrap up in blankets and pillows. Helmets are good, but be thinking of ways to kind of repel debris, protect yourself from debris. That's the whole point of any kind of shelter that you're in. And then the uncomfortable thing that we're going to talk more about going forward, mobile homes are never safe in a tornado. Wind can get below them, wind can flip them. And so we want to get to, in some cases, the nearest sturdy structure, or now when we still have some time ahead, maybe get to a friend or family's house when we're up here, north of Oxford, in Tippah, Benton, Marshall, DeSoto counties, Alcorn counties, maybe Prentiss County. You might be a little far east for the strong tornado threat, but either way, we need to be thinking about a sturdier structure. Our friends at Tupelo Home Center, the reason they're sponsoring us, they're a manufactured home dealer. They're giving away a free storm shelter when you purchase a home from them, because they want to take what is right now, and I've said this for years, a 360-day safe structure, your manufactured home, and make it 365. And so we're proud to be working with them, and the fact they recognize that, listen, it's a great place to live most of the time, but we've got that one issue. They're going to solve that issue. And let's be clear. I think there's a lot of people in site-built houses out there that like to have storm shelter. So anyway, let's go ahead and bring back the chat here for a moment as we kind of talk through this here. Email weather call for my voice to be changed to you, and they said I had to cancel WTVA and rejoin weather call. Is that correct? Yes. The old TV station, they have they have their thing that they're doing with weather call. Weather call will call you and protect you, whether it's my voice or someone else's voice. The main thing that I want is just to make sure that you have a way to be protected. So this is not, me saying you gotta have it be my voice. It'd be great, and certainly it's a way to support us here in Mississippi Live. But ultimately, I just want to make sure that y'all are protected. So Tate County, yes. I would say that tonight you need to be paying very close attention. Hamilton, Mississippi, no. Tonight we're okay. So again, there are two threats here that we're looking at. We're looking at tonight's threat, and that's where we show here this risk area that we've talked about. It says Tuesday, it's really between now and tomorrow morning, and this is the severe weather threat for you, for, again, tornadoes in particular, obviously what we're concentrating on, that potential to possibly see a strong tornado. This is tonight's threat. Hamilton, Hamilton, Mississippi, Aberdeen, Columbus, Grenada, Louisville, no issues tonight. Tomorrow, that's when things shift more toward you. And the blue is a tornado watch back up there into Arkansas where it is right now. So this is tomorrow's risk. And the reason it sits where it does is this is where we have the greatest opportunity. And that's what this graphic should mean to you and me. This isn't necessarily the worst is going to occur here. This is the greatest opportunity to have issues. The most likely to see multiple chances for tornadoes tomorrow is going to be in this orange zone here, where we could have multiple rounds of storms, just kind of continuing to generate rotating thunderstorms for a few hours at a time. That then means it's not just one storm and done. That's why this is our peak tornado risk. But you'll also notice that the significant or strong tornado risk does extend beyond this to encompass much of our viewing area, all the way south past Jackson and Meridian and north up past Grenada and Tupelo. As we showed you a moment ago, some of these spots where a rotation, strong rotation, a possibility there out of this. So tonight, Yalobusha, you're kind of on the edge. I think I'd take my chances as long as I had weather call tonight. Lamar, Alabama, you're fine tonight, but tomorrow's more the issue. I would say Baldwin, you're kind of on the edge there where I think it's reasonable. The worst of it is to your north and west. But I would say late in the overnight period, past really 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, your odds do get greater. Hopefully this is all weaker because, as we mentioned a moment ago, one of the good things is that storms have not been too terribly bad up there into Arkansas. So does the strong tornado graphic depict the strongest possible tornado that could occur with the particular batch of storms? I'm going to be in my safe place regardless, but I would just know that EF3 or above are not possible tonight. Yeah, I would say no EF3 or greater tornadoes tonight, revisiting this significant tornado graphic. That's kind of the purpose of this. This is a new thing this year. So this kind of shows what is the worst case scenario, plausible worst case scenario. EF2 is where we're starting to cause some damage to well-built structures. EF3 is where well-built structures are losing exterior walls. And obviously EF4 greater is when we're talking about somewhere between complete destruction and the slab being wiped clean once you go up higher than EF4. So the idea in this is that probably not going to go EF3 or greater with what we see overnight here. And honestly, most tornadoes would not be EF2, but it's not impossible to get one at that threshold. And then tomorrow, looking at that significant tornado threat, let me say this. This is as it lands as of right now. I've seen projections where I could see a higher risk level on this. I don't think confidence is there yet. So let's just say we're reserving judgment on that. It remains possible we could see stronger than EF2 tornado tomorrow. It also remains possible that we don't have tornadoes and everything is just a little bit out of sync. But I would say strong tornadoes, definitely a possibility for tomorrow. Okay, so Blue Springs, New Albany, we got to be watching overnight, mainly north of you, but still watching for you overnight. Dumas, I would definitely say Walnut and Corinth. We need to be making sure we have weather call, that we have code red, that we again have those multiple layers of protection to wake us up in the middle of the night if you're in some of those locations there. South Tishomingo County, I'd be paying attention as well. But I'd say, again, the greatest threat is, again, back to, assuming I can get back to the west. Man, for a person who does this forever, occasionally I still get a little bit turned up there as well. So Union, Oxford area, Collierville, I would definitely be paying attention tonight, overnight, Collierville. Tomorrow, you're probably in better shape there. Tupelo, I would say okay to go to bed. And I would say in all these folks asking, am I okay to go to bed? The big headline, one of the big headlines I just want to emphasize here, I really am going to have to fix this behind the scenes. Apparently I broke that between broadcasts, but this is it. If you have a storm shelter or at least a safer location closer, then weather call is all you need. It calls you, you go get in that safe place, and you're in good shape. It's that simple. And so with the severe weather threat overnight, this is what I recommend. Now, if you're looking at your structure and you're saying, I think it's possible that this is an unsafe place, then we need to make an evaluation of whether or not we go someplace else. So unsafe places would be cars and trucks, as we talked earlier about, mobile homes, large open rooms, upper floors, and rooms with windows. These would qualify as unsafe places. So we would be, in that case, especially when we're talking about, I mean, obviously with the tornado threat tomorrow, but in particular, I always just get worried with overnight tornadoes because we don't have people paying as close attention because you got to sleep, you got to work. I get that. I don't expect you to stay up all night with us. Let me be clear on that. So if you're in this zone here where I show the red and you expect that you're going to be in an unsafe place in your estimation, then maybe we need to go to grandma's house, a friend's house, someplace sturdier to spend the night there. I'm not suggesting that you go out and you sit at a community shelter all night long. I don't know that that's productive here. We don't have the imminent threat, but I do think late tonight we do have a threat while a lot of folks are sleeping. And I think, I don't know about you, but if I wake up in the middle of the night, I can sometimes be a little groggy. So I think it's important to be assessing, do I live in one of these unsafe places? If a tornado warning is issued, we probably need to be someplace a little safer than that. So again, kind of wrap things up. Our next live broadcast is going to be coming up here at 10 p.m. I will have a better look at the HRRR model and what I'm expecting to see on it. Looking toward tomorrow afternoon is I'm expecting to see a trend southward, maybe somewhat, and also possibly earlier on the initiation of those thunderstorms. I'm going to see if that trend kind of holds. We're going to look at that together there, and we're going to look specifically at some locations here. Overnight threat, there have been some pretty consistent rotation tracks here closer to Senatobia and Ripley, and also up closer to South Haven and the northern part there of Marshall and Benton counties. We're going to see if that holds true on our latest projections. We'll have that again coming up at 10. And what I'm looking for tomorrow, as I kind of assess our projections, we talked about at 5 and 6 o'clock, that one strong stripe that it had south of the Tupelo area from around Pontotoc, southern Pontotoc. I guess that'd be that would be kind of the Thorn area or Algoma, back towards Shannon, back towards Smithville, out here toward Winfield and Detroit. That did not show up on our evening version of the strike model. I think that is an anomaly. That is not something I'm as concerned with, unless for whatever reason we come back here and when we get this latest version of the HRRR, it has something there. I feel better about your situation. But I do see some storms developing a little earlier for some of those spots. And I'm interested to see, again, looking toward the afternoon time period tomorrow, if we once again tomorrow evening get some of those, especially in this corridor just south of US 82, where we've had strong rotation depicted on some of our projections. If we get another round of that, obviously, we will know that we're possibly on to something significant. So watching closely for you. Updates coming up here in the 10 o'clock hour. I'm going to stop this so that I can get my brain reset. We can get the graphics set up and we can present a show that hopefully is useful to you as we kind of look through all of this. So we will see you coming up here at 9 o'clock. We appreciate all of you guys for supporting us here on Mississippi Live on all the different platforms where you can watch us, such as YouTube, Facebook, of course, all the folks there that watch us on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. If you don't have our apps, download them so you have another thing that could wake you up in the middle of the night if you're in the danger zone. More updates coming up here from the Room to Room Weather Center at 10.
You wonder how they're going to experience the real world.
I changed my mind. Here's what I think we're going to do for folks there. I think we're going to leave this up. And I will, if I can glance over and catch your comments, I will. I think I'm going to leave this up. And if you're okay with the fact I'm going to take off my jacket, it doesn't mean we're in full suspenders mode. I'll try to put together my show while we're doing this. And maybe we can answer a few questions as we intermittently go on here. So I'm just going to kind of keep it going here if you're okay with that. I'm not going suspenders mode. This is just a very warm room in my house. So give me a moment here to grab a drink of water, grab a chair that's a taller chair that I can use. And yeah, give me a second. and maybe step on a dog toy or two. Okay, so I'm gonna look at a kid at the table here as I adjust this. So give me a moment, and I'll try to kind of keep an eye on what you guys are talking about as well. We'll have a cleaned up version of this again coming up here at 10. Okay, so I'll just kind of narrate this as we go through, and I kind of set things up here. Okay, we showed triple threat. I think we need to show the storm rotations like we did at 5 and 6 o'clock and show kind of a similar comparison between the two. Back to back. I don't think we had that in this show. We didn't. So I am going to, which I must have deleted that out. Interesting, because it should have been in here, unless at the very end. Wonder where I put that. Okay. Again, you'll see a bunch of things flash on the screen here as I try to go through and kind of set up our 10 o'clock broadcast so that we can answer as much. Algoma, mainly north of you tonight. Kossuth, you are in a zone where I would be knowing where my safe place is tonight. It's safe to stay in my mobile home through the night in Pontotoc. Pontotoc, you're probably okay. It should be north of you in Pontotoc. Once we get to kind of, and I can't really, I wonder if there's, I don't have anything I can telestrate on and just leave up for you. Anyway, let me get my 10 o'clock show behind the scenes here loaded. So that's ready to go. Okay. I'm going to keep the same confidence level that we had before. I'm going to show I'm going to put a Mama Justice Doppler right off the top. So right off the top, we can go here. We could show that watch. We could show that. And after that, I think we'll hit the first 12. After that, we'll go headlines. I'm going to adjust the headlines. Severe storms for some overnight. Second headline. SUBTLE. I don't have spell check on this, so I hopefully I spelled subtle correct. Subtle shift earlier and strong tornadoes remain possible. Okay. Okay. I need to change this to round 2. Okay, that's good. Got those headlines done. Let me look up here, see if we got something. Burnsville. Hey, Burnsville, yeah, I'd be paying attention tonight. I'd be in a safer location there. Clarksdale, I mean, I would be in a safer location potentially there as well. Fulton, you're hopefully far enough south. It'll be closer to dawn for you. If we have issues there, hopefully you're there. Okay, it is. We're not going full live wall to wall now. I just figured with as much people as watching, we might as well just kind of leave this up here, and I'll try to answer some stuff here while we're looking at it. I love speech to text. I see someone there mention speak to text. I love it. Siri, I feel like it's gotten dumber the last couple of years on it, or at least last 6 months. But my system here doesn't have speech to text to speech, unfortunately. Speech to text, I guess. So we've got the surface map. We're going to go threat confidence. No, I'm going to save that from main weather. We're going to go surface map here. We'll show what we need to show there. I'm going to throw Alcorn in. We'll show Alcorn again. Alcorn south right here at the beginning, because it's one of those spots we're watching. Then we're going to go Mount Justice stop bar after that. Then, okay, we've got that. We've got the beginning part there handled, because I'll take care of that there. Okay, the B block. Let's look at how I want to do this. Okay, so B block, yeah, we'll start off with threat confidence. Well, 7-day forecast and threat confidence. I'm going to leave threat confidence the same. I think we have the same discussion there. Grenada, you're too far south for tonight. I think you'll be okay in Grenada tonight. Tomorrow, different story. Southeastern Prentiss County for tonight. God, you're on the edge there. I would say you're in some cases here, we might be setting an alarm for like, say, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, popping on and saying, making a judgment call. I would say in Prentiss County, that's not the worst choice there. Certainly you have to say, if I don't feel like where I'm at safe, I would not be there. Tupelo, I think we're hopefully far enough south tonight. Holka, I would say probably you're far enough south tonight that you should be okay. Yeah. Tomorrow, maybe a different story during the day. Oh, that's fun. And it looks like I'm going to have to, that was fun, reconnect that computer. Okay, we got that figured out. Okay, so let me think. Tomorrow, we're not going to piddle around. We're going to get right to the severe risk. I wish I'd said overnight. It was a lot easier for me to put that to say overnight before. Tornado risk, significant tornado risk. And then I'm going to reverse. Actually, I'm going to leave all these for a moment, because I can then address that with the short range HRRR, which should be updated. And actually, I'm not going to do short range. Yeah, I do. I need to show short range. No, we just showed it before the break. I don't have to show that. Okay, so we're then going to show, where are we at with time? 9:52. UH. Yeah, there we are. Okay. Put that right there. So this is going to be the short range rotation track. And we'll throw in a bunch of pause points here real quick. Let's make sure time's good. It needs to be 18 hours. Let's say 17 hours. That should get us most of the way through. It doesn't have that last hour, so it needs to be 16 hours. Okay. Okay, so let's put a bunch of pause points in this, shall we? Okay, let's put pause point there, 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 there. Those are awfully heavy for them not kicking out any kind of rotation track, but okay. Never mind, 2 o'clock apparently as far as that goes. We're going to bring it down to 15 hours. Okay, save. Okay, after that, then we'll go back and we'll show the overall severe weather threats for Wednesday. Y'all get to hear my ADHD in full force. Let me think here. I need updraft listing. Then we're going to go convective outlook, tornado, wind. No, I need DMA, SPC, day 2 wind. There's no significant wind there, so it should be day 2 wind. So we'll go over all the threats here. And then tornado, no, I got that. I need the hail. I need hail. Should be able to just drop those two right there. Okay. Okay, now 0ZH should be there, and I might need to lead with actually school day forecast before all that. Okay, because clearly I know that's what everyone's going to want to know. We'll give a new honest assessment on that. And I showed strike. Did not love strike. I want to see this. We're going to pick this up. I think the last one. What time did that other one run out of data? I don't want that. I want the other one. Where does this run out of data? 2 p.m.? You know what? I need to cut that. Let's copy that. I need to go there for... Oh, God. Wouldn't that be... It's 9 a.m. would be 12, 11, 10 hours. 10 hours. Let's see there. Yeah, that's fine. 8:30 a.m. That's fine. 9 hours. Okay. Perfect. And then we'll start that at 9 hours. So click Save. This will give us the highest resolution stuff as far out as we can. I typically don't do this because it's kind of a pain to make it all line up, but let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 15 hours, it'd be 6 hours. So then that starts 6:37. Okay, boom, boom, boom. That's not right. Time setting 9. Oh, maybe it was right the first time. Math gonna math. Where are we at on time? We are at 57. Yeesh. I might get done in time. Okay. We run out of data there. And now I need a version of this. I need HLR. UH. 0Z. Ooh, and both of these need to go here after all that. That needs to go down there. Okay, and this needs to start at 2 p.m. tomorrow. 57 after. Nine. 5 p.m. day forward. Yes, and I need it to start at 2 p.m. Okay, an exact time that's going to 7 p.m. Thursday. No, I need 7 a.m. Thursday. Should be fine. Should be plenty. Okay, and pause points, we're at 58:12. We're gonna have to get something done here in a second. Hey, I don't have to write something for Facebook because it occurs to me because y'all are already watching, so I don't have to write anything up for that. See, that saved me some time. Columbus storm, that's interesting. Oh, I'm gonna have to delete that. Delete that. We're at 58:47. Okay, now's the time. Let's get it done. Get it wrapped up, Matt. Okay, it's mainly out of here by then. Okay, so I can deal with that. We'll get rid of the last time there. Call it good. Okay, and then I will just manually go through strike updraft Holisty. Okay, where are we at in time? We are at 59:26. Okay, we're gonna have to get this thing rolling here in a second. Got that. Hit that again, and then we'll hit questions after that. I think that pretty much knocks out everything we need to do on this. Okay. Well, if you don't mind, we'll re-rack, we'll start this thing, and hopefully it makes sense. All right. See you in just a second.
At Vibe Aesthetics and Wellness, we believe confidence isn't just how you look, it's how you feel. From subtle, natural aesthetics to personalized wellness care, everything we do is intentional. This is beauty with purpose. At Vibe Men's Health, we take that same approach. We focus on what matters most: strength, energy, and performance. Built on real data, real medicine, and real results, we're here to help you look better, feel stronger, and live fully. Come vibe with us today.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
Okay, welcome in Mississippi Live Weather at 10. You might have seen me kind of hack together what this broadcast is going to look like, but in particular what we're going to look at is a comparison between our projections, because we anticipate we could have severe weather overnight and a chance that does include tornadoes and perhaps strong tornadoes for tomorrow. Our models are not in perfect alignment. They never are, but some have been consistent on where they have placed rotation that is strong, and that is always a concerning scenario that makes us definitely have to pay close attention. So as we look here at 10 o'clock, we'll start off in Alcorn County. One of the most frequent questions I've seen in the Facebook chat that's been ongoing behind the scenes here is, what about Corinth? What about, different locations? Alcorn County, South Alcorn County, Ryan area where we're looking at here, yes, there is a tornado threat tonight. Now that gets closer to dawn tomorrow morning, might be closer to say 4 a.m. for you. It could run a little faster than that. But I would say the farther east you live, fuel becomes more limited and the likelihood of tornadoes that are strong diminishes. Now, could you still see a tornado in Ryanzi? Absolutely. We're talking strong tornadoes. I think the northwest part of the state is where that is most likely. Something we're going to have to watch. As you can see here on Mama Justice Doppler radar, we have no precipitation, nothing out there now. We've been looking back into Arkansas here. There's a tornado watch ongoing. That's in effect until midnight. There's been virtually nothing that has occurred within the watch area there. And that is a very encouraging sign for you and I overnight tonight. Over the next 12 hours here, temperatures are going to drop through the lower 70s. We're going to 71 degrees at 11 p.m. there, going 68 by 2 o'clock in the morning. And the rain coverage obviously increasing overnight as those thunderstorm chances start to move in. We're 30% there, as you can see, at 2 a.m., 40% by 5 a.m. So most of us seeing our best chance for rain and storms that we see the entire overnight period closer to dawn tomorrow morning. And projections have been a little more aggressive on trying to keep storm chances in deeper into the day tomorrow. And that will have an effect on the positioning of what brings us storm and severe weather chances tomorrow afternoon. So severe storms for some overnight. As we've talked about, there is a tornado threat with that. Looking at the data, there is a subtle shift southward and earlier on our threat for tomorrow. Now, that means we don't have as much pop once the storm is hit as we're kind of adding it earlier. I'm hoping that then reduces the tornado threat slightly, but I'm not at this point thinking we're going to see a reduction in our overall risk area. More on that explanation here in a moment. Strong tornadoes, I think, still possible tonight and for tomorrow with these multiple rounds of severe weather over the next 24 hours. I showed you Mama Justice Doppler radar a moment ago there. The big player, which is going to be so important, is this front. The positioning on this front is kind of critical to how everything else falls into place. You can see on our severe weather risk for tomorrow, well, obviously tonight, we're right there along the front. So it, I guess, remains hopefully obvious that that front is going to be farther south and east tomorrow, and it's zones like we're showing here that are going to be involved. The reason this orange area exists is because this is where we expect we're going to have storms that kind of develop out here toward Monroe, Louisiana, follow near that front, and then more storms kind of redevelop in that same area. So this is about opportunity. The number of reports, in particular, the number of tornado reports are most likely in this area because this is where storms, as we've been kind of showing you behind the scenes, are most likely to form and track. Now, what does this mean for you up here in Tupelo or Corinth or Senatobia tomorrow? You definitely have a tornado threat. It's just you might be dealing with one thunderstorm over the course of the day that could try to do it, whereas someone in Yazoo City or Louisville has 3 or 4 or 5 storms that roll overhead that have at least some kind of rotation. It's just like the old Allen Iverson thought. He just liked taking shots. He'd take as many shots as he wanted to as a basketball player. You know, the idea is if you shoot 1 million shots a game, well, you're probably going to get at least some of those to go in and score a bunch of points. And not to say he wasn't talented in other ways, definitely was, and that's maybe an old reference. But either way, the point is that the more shots you take, the more shots you're going to hit if you have any talent at all. And in this case, we're talking about a situation where we have rotating thunderstorms. Multiple shots is not exactly a good thing, because tonight's overall severe weather threat, we have a strong tornado threat up here near the Tennessee state line. And if you're going to tune out here in a second, here's what you need to hear from me. Overnight tornadoes are the most likely ones to cause injury and death because we're not paying attention. Have a way to find out if you're in danger. Weather call, code red, layer up those alerts, the Mississippi Live Weather app. If you haven't taken the time to download it, download it. And just make sure you have multiple ways to wake you up and you can be within steps of that tornado safe place. Strong tornadoes remain a possibility on the overnight threat, assuming those storms can really get going. And thankfully to this point, maybe it's prayer, maybe I'm sure there's a weather reason we can explain it as well. They have not got super strong yet out into Arkansas. And that's a good sign for us, hopefully. Now, as we look here toward tomorrow, though, with our front nudging in and a more focal point for storms, we're going to have storms that develop and our peak tornado potential for strong tornadoes in this zone here. It's a pretty close overlap to the same spot we were talking about on the tornado risk there. It's just greatest opportunity in orange, but even out here in some of the yellow spots, which we relay with that strong tornado threat for those locations as well. So here's the overall look. We're going to go broad, then we're coming in close. So our front lighting up with storms back to the north and west. I'm going to go back a graphic here to show you again, one of the best things we've seen so far is that storms out here into Arkansas have not got up and going really well yet. They should be stronger than they are. Excuse you, Duke. They should be stronger than they are right here. So that's a sign that perhaps the overall threat tonight is inflated. By that I mean, hopefully we're too hard on this. That would be best case scenario, but we don't make life based on best case scenarios. You know, we plan for the worst and hope for the best. And so we're just planning overnight, knowing that some of these storms could be strong to severe. Still showing some rotation on that one near Hernando, the other one there north of Corinth there, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. That one, again, it only takes one, but pretty heavy there as it moved over Holly Springs, back toward Ripley there, toward Boonville. Yeah, I had someone asking a minute ago in the comments, what about Southeast Prentice? I wouldn't want to take my chances with that, but notice it's practically dawn by the time this projection has that getting to you. There will be some rotating thunderstorms overnight. That probably means we'll have some tornado warnings. That probably means we'll be doing live coverage right here. So if you found us here, we're going to be at all these places when that time comes as well. And then storms do continue to form through the morning. One of the interesting things is how far south the rain-cooled air goes. Shoved a little farther south than our front is on here. The frontal positioning might need to be shifted slightly farther south. I think we have the actual front and the effective front. We'll explain why those two things matter in a minute. But the effective front is where we have the lifting zone. But you can still see 1, 2 o'clock, not a ton of activity out there, but it picks up more after that. So over the next 24 hours, storms in the morning, diminishing maybe somewhat as we go through midday there, close to noontime. That could help us to get more sunshine. That sunshine help us to have more pop for thunderstorms work off of on tape or instability there. And then storm chances increasing a lot more into tomorrow afternoon as we have, again, quite a few thunderstorms, really heavy rainfall, and a lot of other things to go alongside of this as well. So this is a complex forecast. I apologize for those folks that are looking for the 2-minute television forecast. This is not going to be one of those because there's just multiple layers on what could happen. The big headline I want you to hear before we go is neither one of these is for sure a tornado outbreak, but tomorrow in particular, in the afternoon and evening, I think there's going to be an opportunity for somebody, unfortunately, to see a strong tornado and maybe multiple chances for locations, especially south of US 82. But they're not the only folks. We're tracking in more detail right after this.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
Room to Room's birthday party is going on now. Come celebrate with us. Thousands of dollars in free gifts, cash, spa treatments, shopping sprees, and even a chance to win your entire purchase free. It's a celebration you don't want to miss, and there's no party like a Room to Room party.
We can see the lowering. We're going to have a good shot at that as it approaches the Rienzi area. Tornado warning now issued. We'll do a push alert behind the scenes for folks here up here in Alcorn County. Rotation on this thunderstorm increasing to the point back into Tippah County as well, where the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for your locations.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lobhon.
thank you so much for supporting us here on Mississippi Live. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. We've got a lot of things to talk about over the next few minutes. I want to start off with this one here, which is rainfall, because I don't want to skip it. And I'm most likely, of all the things I'm going to do, to skip the rainfall on this, which will be very heavy over the next couple of days. You can see overnight, 2 to 3 inches, a possibility. We show Corinth there, assuming everything goes the wrong way. And then additional rainfall totals into tomorrow in some cases. Another 2 to 3 inches. You show some spots there in North Alabama where it's more than 6 inches. So heavy rainfall. And this, I don't think necessarily captures the exact spots. Don't look at your exact town. Look at what is possible there. You'll see when we look at Futurecast in a minute, there might not be a perfect overlap with this. Just know if you're in that zone where storms keep regenerating in the same spots, we're going to have rainfall totals in excess of 5 to 6 inches there. So I'm talking to y'all there, south of 82 in Kosciuszko, in Louisville, and Macon. You could be those spots we're talking about. So storms both overnight and early tomorrow, which is showing the 7-day forecast, so at least you see it if you check out before the end of this. Thursday, pre-dawn, and then drier after that. Friday, we're dry. Saturday, we're dry. Sunday, chances back there. We don't go nearly as chilly as we went this last weekend, but still, upper 40s, not impossible early Friday morning. So we really clear the moisture out of here, and it takes a while for it to come back in. This might be the most important forecast I think folks kind of want to know behind the scenes here. School bus forecast, school day forecast for tomorrow. Listen, looking what I've looked at, my kids are still going to school tomorrow. We're taking them in the morning. They're going to be in good shape. I'm not worried about them. Let's also be clear here for a second. In many cases, schools are some of the safest buildings we have in our communities here. In many cases, we've reinforced shelters, and otherwise, is your house made with concrete block? Mine's not. So my storm shelter is, and so that, obviously figures in. But tomorrow, most of the storms are going to be strongest prior to dawn, prior to school, with maybe the exception of far north Mississippi. We'll look at that with Futurecast here in a minute. And then peak threat tomorrow afternoon is going to be more evening time period. Those we talked about off top of the broadcast, the time period has sped up just a little bit. And we will look at that in a minute. And appreciate IMPC for sponsoring our school day forecast. So strong tornadoes remain possible. Some strong wind gusts possible out of these storms. But again, if you haven't heard me mention it much, I think the overnight threat, we could have strong winds that are wrapping in trying to spin up tornadoes. So I'm not convinced on the strong tornado threat overnight as much as I have been, partially because the storms have just not gotten going out there into Arkansas. I don't want to pull back from it completely. I think that would be kind of foolhardy at 10 o'clock after saying one thing all day long. I don't think I've seen enough evidence going there yet, but we at least have things trending in the positive. And then tomorrow afternoon, obviously, that threat we're talking about there, strong wind gusts, large hail in excess of 1.5 inches, rotating thunderstorms, pretty effective at that. So here's our severe weather risk overnight. It does involve really the northern half of the area. Tornado risk in particular, the locations here we show Tunica, Senatobia, Holly Springs, back to Arkansas and up into Tennessee. EF2 or stronger tornadoes, that's enough where you're starting to cause damage to well-built structures, meaning if you're in a manufactured home, if you're in some place that we wouldn't say is well-built, and you're the only one that can make that judgment call, then we need to be thinking about maybe some other place to stay. I'm a little bit less convinced on this, but not much. But I just got to give you the trend on that. I think it's fair. Looking at storm rotation, again, the latest version of the HRRR, something we did not talk about during our 9 o'clock broadcast here, shows those storms still pretty heavy out there, showing up from Wynne, Arkansas, back toward Memphis. Now, thing to keep in mind, it is presently, 10:13? These storms don't exist. Going from don't exist to rotating severe over the next 2 hours is possible, but with every passing minute becomes less likely. And that's one of the things that, dear God, hopefully will limit the strong tornado potential overnight. We show, again, that line of storms getting there closer to Memphis and South Haven by 12:30. This could be running a little fast, if we're honest. Now, notice this does have a couple storms, one there south of Carlisle, Arkansas, north of Stuttgart, moving there toward Mariana. That one with a little bit stronger rotation. And projections have been pretty clear there as it passes West Helena that we're going to have one of these that tries to keep some rotation going with it. First thing I note on this as well is that up here we do have one of these storms just north of the Tennessee state line. It'd be that one we show at Savannah, Tennessee there at 3 a.m. That over the course of that really a 1 to 3 o'clock time period moving from Collierville out here towards Selmer does have enough rotation to kick out one of these tracks. What do these mean? Does this mean tornado for sure? No. This means we've got strong shear, strong rotation. And so where we have strong rotation, that's about as good as we're going to get on a sign that tornadoes could occur, but it just as easily could be damaging wind or rotation that produces large hail, or maybe just not quite enough to do to trigger warnings. So all those still very much on the table, but this is one of the spots where I think we have the greatest likelihood. We've been pretty consistent here near the Tennessee state line with an area of rotation, and another one that we by 3 a.m. show approaching Holly Springs there. That one near Holly Springs, pretty dense by 3:30 Potts Camp, and by around 4 to 5 o'clock, as you can see, Ripley back there closer to Boonville. That does have consistent rotation with it there. And so I think I had somebody, it was either Marietta, it was in southeast Prentiss County, I'm assuming pretty close there to Bay Springs Lake, that was asking, yeah, I have at least one storm here with rotation, but you notice it takes almost all the way to 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. So this is why I'm encouraging you, please do not stay up with us all night long, especially if you live out here, Alcorn, Prentiss, Tishomingo, Lee, Itawamba counties. Make sure you have weather call. It'll wake you up if something happens earlier. But I think the threat for overnight tornadoes, and especially overnight strong tornadoes, is greatest in the Tennessee and Arkansas, and still very much possible if a storm can hang on to that front as it moves eastward. Weather call will wake you up. You don't have to worry about whether or not I'm right or wrong. And I'll tell you this, I've joked this behind the scenes. I'm sure I've said this on camera before, that I love what we do. I think it's important. But at the same time, if you have weather call and a storm shelter, you don't need me. You get the weather call, it says, hey, you need to get to shelter, and then you go to shelter. Those are the only things that effectively actually save your life, is knowing you need to go, weather call takes care of half of that, and then knowing where your safest place is, and you have to do that. You have to heed that warning. So get weather call, scan that QR code for the latest, take a screenshot if you know there's somebody that you should send it to with that. Let's address another storm we see out here. Very strong rotation, Marietta, Arkansas. This is behind kind of this leading line here. Look right there. You see that line? That is kind of our cold front, rain-cooled air in all likelihood, or at least where our projection has that here. And so with storms farther behind that there, this is more likely to be a hail, maybe wind producer, as opposed to what we have on the leading edge, which would be more likely, if you were to get one there, to have some rotation. That's why, again, the storms farther east there, looking toward Iuka or Cherokee. I had Cherokee, show up in the comments a little bit ago. Someone asking about that. That is why, that storm maybe has a greater amount of concern, is because it is just a little bit farther east and it's on kind of that leading edge there as well. So looking here towards, say, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, still, again, some rotation on some of these. So we're going to have to watch things very closely tomorrow morning. And clearly myself, our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, will be doing that overnight. Maggie is scheduled to be on 6:37, 7:30 a.m. You could see her as early as maybe 1 o'clock in the morning tonight. Our changeover time between Maggie and I, as we're babysitting this, is going to be 1 a.m. And Maggie will call me back, and we'll both handle it together if we're talking about significant, tornado, something like that. Like we're going to team coverage that. But we're also going to try to sleep before that becomes the case. So Maggie's sleeping now. I'll change over to sleeping once she takes over overnight. But anyway, Maggie does a great job. You're in good hands with her, and certainly we'll be working together to kind of catch things. She'll have updates at the latest tomorrow morning at 6:30 a.m. And a lot would have gone right if that's the case, and maybe that will be the case. Now let's look at storm rotation here. So let's now look beyond that at our severe weather threat. And again, this is tomorrow's severe weather threat. We've talked about last couple of days here in the Room to Room Weather Center that again, peak threat, central and southern portions of the area where we again have this highest risk, the greatest likelihood to see the largest number of reports. And that's what this graphic shows. The most reports of severe weather, we're going to see 2, 3, 4, or just one. The greatest likelihood to see those reports, the greatest opportunity to see severe weather is in this orange zone here that you see. That's not to eliminate you if you're out here in Clarksdale or Water Valley and Oxford. That is to say, though, we have seen a slight trend southward, and God willing, that trend will continue if you're there in Red Bay or Tupelo. But if you're down in Columbus or Starkville or Kosciuszko or Louisville, we're still very much on guard for you on this. Up to EF2 strength on that tornado threat, and it's not impossible that a higher risk, a higher potential intensity is necessary on this if things, go the wrong way tomorrow. Damaging wind possible, pretty much all locations. The significant hail threat there That's one thing that we're looking at most likely here. Bruce, Grenada, Greenwood, Kosciuszko back out into Arkansas and Louisiana. I think we all have at least a limited hail threat for tomorrow, though. So now let's go beyond that as we kind of assess the rotation. This is the time that's most interesting to me, most difficult thing to kind of flesh out on this. So let's talk the morning. So we have that boundary. I still kind of can see right about here. This is the zone we're watching from Tupelo back toward around Houston and back toward Grenada and Greenwood. There's a boundary there. That's the edge of that rain-cooled air. It doesn't show up as much by 9 a.m. And again, we've had some rotating storms, but this is kind of our lull period. How many storms kind of develop here? Do they maintain? One thing that I do note on here versus what we saw what I saw earlier on in our projections is I have less storms down south and less storms kind of all over the place at 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. That means the atmosphere is recharging at that point. It's recharging earlier on our HRRR than what it showed before. And so with it recharging, that means it could then ignite with stronger storms a little bit earlier. The question is whether or not these are strong enough for that. I still think these storms, Clarksdale, West Helena, that's behind that boundary. That's behind that front. That's in the cooler air, the more stable air, so to speak. You could still have these produce severe weather. You could see rotation on that at noontime. But I'm thinking most locations really south of that boundary could move back northward, and that does happen. And so it doesn't eliminate you in Oxford, Water Valley, but I still kind of see it down here on this projection, closer to Grenada and Bruce. Storms kind of lifting off of that boundary, some rotation, Russellville, Alabama. A greater amount of it, though, with these storms going a little earlier down there, Yazoo City, back toward Lake Providence and north of the Vicksburg area. And yeah, even some of these storms ahead of that have a little bit of rotation with them. So this is the interesting part. And this is how these all kind of go together. If there's so much fuel to go around, the atmosphere can replenish it, but it takes time. And so with morning storms kicking out kind of our boundary a little farther south and less storms developing behind that on this latest version, that's a sign that potentially the atmosphere could then ignite, have more fuel available, and ignite a little more quickly into the afternoon. And that's what our HRRR here is showing with some of those storms. Vicksburg getting stronger earlier, that winter Kosciuszko a little stronger earlier. Now, I'm going to change things over to our longer range version of this. So you're going to see this kind of jump a little bit as it kind of adjusts model data. And the first thing that I notice on that there is how the positioning is a little bit different. But we also, again, have those sporadic rotating thunderstorms in this zone from Jasper, Alabama, back here toward Columbus and toward Kosciuszko. As we head there from 3:30 there, closer to, say, 4:30, now some of those rotation tracks getting a little bit stronger, like that one there on the north side of Jackson, closer to Madison and Philadelphia. Wow, that one looks pretty impressive. This is the concern. At 6 o'clock, I don't show a ton up here in North Mississippi. This is kind of the best case scenario if you knew if there's enough rain-cooled air that shoves it farther south. I don't know that that's going to happen, though. Here's why. Remember all those storms that are supposed to be going on in Arkansas? They're not, right? And if the rain-cooled air from the storms is supposed to shove this farther south, and there's not as much rain-cooled air, it's not going to be as far south, right? I think this is a bob too far south. I think this is adjusted too far south on the model. I think we need to pull everything probably back northward just a little bit more because of that. Yeah. Again, Maggie will be updating things tomorrow morning, but that's just kind of a hunch as I'm thinking about this here. Certainly, though, that south of Philadelphia, that shows you, again, strong tornadoes remain a possibility with this, closer to Macon as well. We have this one up here toward West Helena, back up toward Hernando and Senatobia. That's a rotating storm, but I think this rotation here more likely to be, okay, that went way fast there. I think I went too many hours ahead. So let me go back here a moment. But that one, I think, just doesn't really hold on and looks like it's a little bit weaker. And then we have, again, a few of these that are kind of close to that boundary, but might hold on a longer period of time there. So that's probably wind with spin-up style sort of rotation on that. This one there, probably, again, wind with maybe a spin-up style rotation. So these aren't as individual storms as what we had earlier on, but some of these definitely pretty potent. And again, extended rotation tracks on those. So the takeaway, in my opinion, looking at that, before we look at our strike model, is I think it could be too far south. because there's not enough storms out there tonight. And if the model's, again, starting off with too many storms, then it's going to start off with too strong a cold pool or much cold air that it's using to kind of push southward. And that will probably bring the threat farther north. With it farther north, could that then extend the morning batch a little bit? See, this is what I'm talking about. This is the butterfly effect portion of this. Once we know that the model's off on something, it starts a little bit spinning on all the different ways it could be off. Let's check our strike model here. We're going to advance that to that. And again, it is aggressive, too aggressive as well. Both projections have a lot more thunderstorms out here into Arkansas than exist at the moment. Let's just double check that they don't exist still. We'll go back here to Mama Justice Doppler for just a moment, just to make sure that we don't have much up there. Nope, still garbage. That's good. Okay, back over here, looking at the current on this. And so this consistently shows, again, a pretty strong rotation track up into Tennessee. I think our time is easily too early, and that rotation threat kind of shifts southward by 6 a.m. or so. I thought we had more pause points in this. We'll double check. I might have to re-rack this with more pause points. Yeah, no, we're going to have to go and take this out of play mode to do that. Hey, for all y'all out there, I appreciate y'all in the chat. I will try to answer some more questions in the chat here in a minute, I promise. But we're trying to talk through the overall setup here first before we do that. So give me a couple minutes. Appreciate you guys in the chat, and appreciate all of our sponsors. If I don't mention them again, whether it's Vibe that specifically sponsors this 10 o'clock broadcast here, Vibe Aesthetics and Vibe Men. We're thankful to be partnering with them here on Mississippi Live. So go ahead and again, bring it back full screen here for just a moment. And between the 5 and 6 o'clock show, I did not have time to be able to transition to fix that graphic, but we'll get that fixed. Okay, so let's walk through. Again, north of the Tennessee state line. This doesn't have as much in the strong tornado threat overnight. Okay, so we're not pulling strong tornado threat off the table overnight, but I can say we see encouraging signs that perhaps our rotating storms will produce less strong tornadoes overnight. That's an improvement. It's not a guarantee. We don't build our lives on hopes and prayers. We build them on facts and maybe hopes. But, you know, when we talk about safety, we don't do it off of hope. You know, we don't ride without a seatbelt on hoping we're not going to get a crash. We wear one just in case. And so overnight, I plan accordingly that maybe a strong tornado is still a possibility. Things do look a little better on here. Now, checking our strike model, looking here towards, say, 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning. What this does is this one has a few more storms on there, and that would be a scenario that then shoves that boundary a little farther south, which is why I'm betting that this is going to be farther south than what we showed you at 5 and 6 o'clock on here, just looking specifically at it. This does have, by 2 o'clock, one of those stronger thunderstorms, again, probably behind the boundary up here, Clarksdale moving toward Oxford, some rotation there. Less likely to be producing tornadoes at that point. These were ones that start to get interesting here, like this one we show south of Fulton at 5 p.m. If that boundary is where it could be farther north, this one could potentially be a little bit more significant if that's the case. So rotation there. The one in Houston has some rotation on it. And then one looks like back there in Louisiana, and one down closer to Meridian. Let's go a little stronger angle on this. So now as we go past 5 to 6 o'clock, now this has a lot less rotation tracks on this, but where it does, it still drops some up here close to the Tennessee state line. I would say I feel pretty confident that by 7 p.m. tomorrow, unless we are really off, completely possible, this is probably outside of the most unstable air, and more likely that this is hail more than anything else. But certainly we will update things in the morning on that. Come back here toward Belzona and Chula. That storm there kind of holding together does lift northward. I think that's the same one that kind of lifts up there toward Houston, which I think that's probably a little too far north. But you notice the rotation track strongest down south, and that one there south of Louisville is the concern. Okay, here's the deal. Now I have all 4 of my models that have some kind of significant rotation track here pretty close to Kosciuszko and Louisville in this zone here south of Columbus, maybe Philadelphia, Carthage, northward, somewhere in here. So the fact that models are still producing rotation tracks in this zone back here, Chula, Belzona, Eudora, back all the way to Macon and Owlsville, is a sign that we're going to get one pretty good, strong rotating thunderstorm there at least, and possibly more than one. And that's where that severe weather, that tornado risk comes in if you have multiple opportunities there. Because, yeah, I mean, that drops a pretty healthy rotation track. Again, rotation just means it's spinning real strong. Spinning real strong doesn't always mean it drops the tornado. So still some things to hope and pray for on that one. But yeah, that still the similar locations there to what we had earlier on. And then after that batch, it has some rotation there late in the overnight hours, but I think that's probably behind our boundary as the threat largely shifts south and east of us. And I guess just to kind of clear it up here, going beyond that, nothing for Thursday, nothing for Friday. By Saturday, as you can see, kind of the next chances for, Friday late, chances for storms down south and up north of us, but we are dry up here in this part of the state. But again, some little rotation tracks, or maybe more than little rotation tracks down south with that there as well. So where are we at here? I'm on that. Let's go ahead and kind of recap here for a moment and then try to answer some questions. I'll pull up the chat. So first and foremost, storms possible overnight. Strong tornadoes still on the table, but things do look a little bit weaker than at 5 and 6. It's a trend in the right direction, hopefully one that holds. As we look here toward tomorrow, I think strong tornadoes still possible. There is that slight shift southward. I don't know that trend is going to hold. I do think that it's not impossible to get a strong tornado overnight, but I think the likelihood of it happening looks less than it did before, thankfully. Tomorrow, I think the potential for strong tornadoes is absolutely still there. Positioning then is the question. How far south are they? Are they as far south with that primary zone as Philadelphia? Are they more, say, Kosciuszko, or as far north as maybe Winona and Starkville? I think we'll have tornado potential farther north than that. And if we fire storms earlier, it will be farther north than that. But I think there's still positioning, P-O-S-S-I-B-L-E. I did spell that right. But as far as positioning goes for tomorrow, that remains the biggest question. I think strong tornadoes definitely on the table, damaging wind gusts, large hail, flooding, all very real possibilities for what we expect out of tomorrow. So what about? Let's talk about some whatabouts. If you give me a minute, I'm going to sit down for the whatabouts and take off the jacket here for a moment. And before we go into the whatabouts, let's go ahead and do one of the things that I do like to do here. We'll kind of pull it off of this shot. And I think it's, again, going to have the graphics over my face because I don't have that set to clear. But I do believe in the power of prayer. And you can argue with me on how it works all day long. I just know that it does. And so we're going to have a little prayer here before we move on. It's one of the things we do here in the Room to Room Weather Center. So, dear God, please help us tomorrow and tonight. I know there are people out there that are scared, and I get it. Help me to say whatever it is that will both ease their fears and yet prepare them, because we don't want anybody to be scared, but we do have to be prepared when we start talking about bad weather, like tornadoes, which are possible tonight for locations, especially in the northern part of the area. But you know where all this is. You understand all of this. So God, I pray that your hand of protection is on people, even if that protection is in the form of just a gut feeling that tells them that they need to do something and act. God, I pray that they listen to that gut when the time comes, if the time comes, and get the shelter. But just help guide my actions and Maggie so that we can give them quality information. Allow our stream to reach them effectively and clearly. And God, tomorrow, I pray that you continue to give us wisdom as to what to do next and help everyone at home to make smart choices as well. And help us to plan accordingly for what's going to happen and just protect us. And if it means, egg on my face, then I'm fine with that. But God, let your will be done and let us trust your will. I pray all this in Jesus' powerful name. Amen. Okay. just so folks at home, we kind of have this up there for a second. I'm blind. I got to give credit to the folks over at Weston Mothershed. I got my glasses today, and they are fantastic. So that's why I wear them outside of when I'm praying. But if you have not picked up our app, make sure to do that. iOS and Android devices. It's got alerts, and it has, in particular for the folks overnight, but also tomorrow, it has early alerts in there as well. If you go into the app, I know some folks are like, I don't like the alerts. I get it. If you want to change the alerts, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a little, did I click the wrong spot? I think I clicked the wrong spot. So there's a little, I don't know what you want to call it, upside down triangle sort of thing, not quite triangle. You click on that, it shows your current location. You click on that, there's a down arrow, and you can hit edit, and you can change what alerts are on there. So if you want to change the type of alerts, you can do that there. The reason I'm pulling this up, though, is there's a section of this where it mentions under severe weather alerts, and there's some things under there that I want to make sure you know. There's one that says twisting storm approaching. It's the bottom one in that list, and that's something that, again, I don't think there's any other app in the state of Mississippi that has something like this. I know certainly there isn't in the northern part of the state, but that says twisting storm approaching, and that uses some of the rotation algorithms that we have in Mama Justice Doppler and pulls it from there and says, hey, if we're seeing rotation on there in a certain way, we're going to ping the phones. And so make sure that that one is turned on tonight, especially if you're in one of those spots where we could see rotation. That one is kind of a special one there as well. Dangerous storm approaching. It's similar. It kind of looks an assessment. How tall is it? How strong is it? Could it be something that eventually produces severe weather? Those are going to happen sometimes when we don't have official severe thunderstorm warnings. They're not perfect. They're an earlier warning. So that's the reason we put them in there. It's kind of the earliest possible alert. But if you want to toggle on and off some of the different alerts, you want to, hey, I only care about tornado warnings. I get you. This is where you do it. So in Mississippi Live Weather app, you can configure it. And make sure to follow us on all the different social medias there. But I mentioned Roku, Apple TV, and Fire Stick. Those three are important because when we're talking about severe weather and the power outages remain a possibility, and when we're kind of preparing in advance, one of the things we want to do is making sure we keep our phone charged. So if you're watching us on your phone right now, your phone's not going to be charged, right? So unless you're probably not like me, where you have 10,000 pictures all over the place and 101 USB-C chargers where you can plug in your phone at any time. So keep your phone charged if you can. But if you have the Mississippi Live Weather app on Apple TV, Roku, or Fire Stick, then it's just on the big screen like usual, and your phone's staying charged until you need it. So I'd encourage you to download that. Sometimes it's more comfortable, but you do you know what's best on that. So that's what we're looking at here. But one last thing I want to mention this. We showed this again earlier on the night for the overnight storms in particular, but obviously paying attention to this for tomorrow. We want to avoid unsafe places, cars, trucks, and manufactured homes. The overwhelming majority of tornado fatalities occur in those three spots. Large open rooms, upper floors, rooms with windows, also, again, unsafe places. And we're so excited to partner with the folks at Tupelo Home Center because they're a manufactured home dealer based on the south part of Tupelo here. We had a meeting with them yesterday, and they're like, we see that there's a need here for storm shelters in our area. And so what we're going to do is we're going to step up and turn our homes into 365-day homes. And so if you buy your manufactured home through Tupelo Home Center, they will actually give you a storm shelter. So it changes what I've always said, which is a manufactured home is fine 360 days a year, but there's 5 days you might need to go someplace else, tonight being one of those nights, tomorrow being one of those days. But they're giving away free storm shelters if you buy your manufactured home with them, a new manufactured home with them. They'll add in a storm shelter with that. So I should be clear, it's not if you've bought it in the past. Obviously, this is a new purchase and going forward, something they're working with their clients, because you're 20 times more likely to die if your manufactured home is hit by a tornado than if my site-built structure is. There's still a scenario where this gets hurt, but that's just unfortunate statistics. And honestly, in the state of Mississippi, it's actually a higher percentage. That's a national number there. In the state of Mississippi, it's about 3 times that, believe it or not. So it's just a fact of life. And thankfully, they are confronting the issue that we all know but don't talk about head on there. Okay, let's bring up the chat. Okay. Mabon, Sturgis, good. Mabon, you are fine tonight. Tomorrow, different story. Possibility of watches for North Mississippi tonight in the morning. Yes, I think it's reasonable that we have the northern 2 rows of counties in Mississippi. I'd be talking, like maybe as far south as Prentiss, Union, Lafayette County, maybe Tate DeSoto. I think it's reasonable that we have a watch overnight for that, but not at the moment because the storms just really haven't gotten going. So that kind of works in our favor there. Looking here, power banks. Yeah, make sure you have power banks. Those are good as well. Boonville tonight, I would be prepared. To Pontotoc, you're probably far enough south tonight. Crumtown, you're far enough north. You got to be paying attention. Thaxton, I think Thaxton. If y'all have weather call, you're fine. Saltillo, we're probably far enough south by just a little bit, especially based on how unimpressive the storms are. But as you saw on the latest version of our HRRR, there were a bunch of different chances there as well with this. Looking the Water Valley, I would say probably far enough south tonight. Baldwin, again, kind of on the edge there. It's going to be closer to dawn tomorrow. Maybe this is going to sound crazy. Maybe a 3 o'clock alarm to double check and see, are we still good? Did anything really go? Because I will say this. One of the things that I can mention about what we're looking at here at this time is that the storms are just very unimpressive in Arkansas, right? This is what we've got. They issued a tornado watch as storms start to develop. There have been virtually nothing. I'll put on the storm reports. As you can see, really nothing where that watch was. If I make this a 8-hour loop, we go back to before that watch was issued. They're around 6 o'clock. Couple storms going. Storms got a little heavier, but they've all kind of fallen apart. So this is underwhelming, and I think that, again, hopefully is a trend that continues. Look at some other things. Collegiate, though, I'd be paying attention. Starkville tomorrow, yes, you're in the zone. Starkville, I still say as far north, again, where we show this risk area. If I expected a trend on this, it's not impossible that this level 2 risk is dragged southward a little bit, but the fact that we don't have storms in Arkansas at all means the cold pool, the rain-cooled air pushing in, is probably not going to push as far in. So I think this graph could actually be pretty spot on some things here, still with where it's at, because of how things have not developed in Arkansas this evening, if that makes sense. Yeah, I see Tracy saying the best way to overcome fear is through education. Know where your tornado safety place is. As a kid, I was scared to death of tornadoes. I think there's probably some people out there that can relate to that. And my parents fed education against my fear, and I ended up a meteorologist. They made sure I understood some things. And let's understand some things. While there's a tornado threat for tonight and tomorrow, the reality is that even in this orange area, most folks are not going to get hit by tornadoes. They're typically pretty small. A huge tornado is a mile wide, right? And so this area that we're looking at on the map behind me there stretches what? The orange area? About 70, 80 miles. So even if you have a gigantic, really bad day, potentially killer tornado tomorrow, right? Which I'm not saying guarantee will happen that by any stretch. But if you were to have that worst case scenario, you could fit 79 of them side by side there in the zone that's just the peak risk. So one of the things my parents taught me is that, even if you're in that risk, your odds are still very good you're not going to get hit by a tornado, but you prepare just in case. So no reason to get super upset yet. We just need to be thinking ahead and preparing, because the odds of being hit by a tornado remain still pretty low. Let's see here. New Albany, school closures. Let's talk about school closures. And I think the easiest way I can address this is to say, I'm sending my kids to school tomorrow morning, and I'm not going to think twice about it. It's the right thing to do. I know they'll be safe. That's my situation. Your situation could be different. But in many cases, the schools are built a little bit better than our homes. Now, our insecurities will say, I want them here with me. I get that. But most schools are going to be strong enough. They're going to be okay shape. And I think the time of day benefits us. We're going to have some early storms. And again, close to the first bell for locations up here in the northern part of the state. Yeah, there might be some issues up here north of Tupelo and the North Alabama there in the worst case scenario. But I think the afternoon threat doesn't really mature until after 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So I think school largely should be okay, in good shape. Kim Williams. So basically, I just need to go to bed, have my alerts in, pray, and go to sleep. Got it. I'm tired, but I'm over these storms already. Kim, I couldn't agree more. And this is, I think, the way we'll wrap this up here, is with this graphic. And then after this broadcast, I'm going to fix it to where that your comments don't stay over my face, which is the way it would have been before. You have weather call? I'd say in most cases, go to sleep. Tonight, if you're within steps of your tornado safe place, you know where to go. Go to sleep. Please don't stay up with us all night long. It'll make you crabby tomorrow. And honestly, you'll have a shorter temper with me next time. I think as long as you have weather call, you should be fine. You just need two things here. Know when to go. That's what weather call does. Or I guess I should point down at the QR code below me. Know when to go. And then know where to go. If you can handle those two things, you're going to be okay. The when to go is what's always scariest in the middle of the night. Weather call takes care of that. If there's a tornado warning, it'll wake you up. Now, is it possible we see something before a tornado warning is issued? Yes. But if as soon as it's strong enough to cause life and limb issues on these overnight storms, we're probably going to have a pretty good idea. And there'll probably be a tornado warning before that. So that means you'll probably get a weather call. I mean, as soon as a tornado warning is issued, you will definitely get it. But even for us doing our nerd thing behind the scenes, like I think I see, by the time that gets significant enough that's like, that might be, Weather Service is going to pull on tornado warning in all likelihood. Overnight storms, they typically do it faster, and that's the right choice. It's better to take the path of least regret. And so an early tornado warning comes in, get weather call. And on top of that, I'll just say that on top of that, you want to be thinking about building your armor. There are other apps other than just what I show here, but make sure to, again, have multiple different ways to find out if you're in danger. We say build your armor, never rely on just on one source, because layers save lives. And I love our app. It does great. But when my Do Not Disturb kicks in at midnight, which is when it kicks in every single night, I get 0 app alerts after that. And so if I didn't have weather call, I wouldn't have anything to wake me up other than Maggie calling me. But I put those numbers, weather call, Maggie's number, in my favorites so it can bust through my Do Not Disturb. So if you have weather call, put it in as one of your favorite numbers so that way it can bust through Do Not Disturb if you have it on now, or put it on in the future so you know if you're in danger there. Okay. Somebody says they're ready for their Cinco de Mayo margaritas. I understand that. They live in Iuka, and I would say your threat is a lot less than if you lived in Northwest Mississippi for our overnight chances. Again, I'll go back to our overnight chance here, and we'll leave it there as we kind of wrap things up. The northern part of the state in particular, and then, again, Northwest Mississippi, where most likely, if we're going to see a strong tornado. And again, I have less and less confidence with every passing moment on the overnight strong tornado threat. So at least that is an improvement there. Myself, our meteorologist Maggie McCauley will be watching things here in the Room to Room Weather Center all night long. If there are issues where something comes up, she'll be on at the latest at 6:37 and 7:30 a.m. with updates on tomorrow's threat. But she'll be watching things all night long. She takes over watching at midnight. I'll give it over to her. I got to get some sleep so that I'm ready for tomorrow. Got a big day, obviously tracking storms. One thing to be clear of, we might not do that mid-morning update we typically do. I have to speak at the State of the Region with the CDF tomorrow. I'm part of a panel talking about disaster awareness. I know, right? So I might not be here for that mid-morning update we typically do. It might be closer to noon time. So we'll let you know if that ends up being the case. Keep it here for the latest. Again, our next live broadcast going to be coming up at tomorrow morning, 6:30, 7, and 7:30 a.m. here in the Room to Room Weather Center. And then at the latest, it'll be 5, 6, and 10 p.m. As well as 9 p.m. tomorrow. So keep it here, and we'll keep you advised.
You wonder how they're going to experience the real world in real safety, where all kids are welcome and everyone has a path forward to new skills, advancement, leadership, something they will carry with them the rest of their lives.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.